If your nerve deny you, go above your nerve. Emily Dickinson and Cheryl Strayed. Oh my God. What have I done?
I'm sorry you have to walk 1,000 miles just to...
Finish that sentence. Why do I have to walk 1,000 miles?
Happy trail, Cheryl.
Turn away from the sound of your own voice.
You get lonely. I'm lonelier in my real life than I am out here.
Follow the avalanche.
Must have been some breakup, huh?
Breakup is sort of a shorthand. How much do I love you? I miss you. God, I miss you. My mother was the love of my life.
You're using heroin, and you're having sex with anyone who asks.
You ever think about quitting?
Only once every 2 minutes or so.
Well, I've quit a bunch of stuff. Quit jobs, quit marriages.
You regret any of them?
I didn't have a choice. There's never been a time when there was a fork in my road.
Here are some questions I've been asking myself. What if I forgive myself? What if I was sorry? But if I could go back in time, I wouldn't do a single thing differently. What if all those things I did were the things that got me here?
Turn away.
Squeeze in, guys.
Big groove shot. Now, can we start you down on this side?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
I want to thank Toronto for raising me to love movies.
Everyone has a big imagination. All of us do.
This is exciting. My first film to premiere here at the Toronto Film Festival. It's an exciting night.
You are the most globally exciting festival in the world.
Hello and welcome to the press conference for Wild. A few points before we begin. This press conference will be streamed live at www.tiff.net, and still photographs will be made available on TIFF's media site. Volunteers with microphones are in the room to assist you with your questions. Please remember to identify yourself and your media outlet. Please note, no photography is permitted during this press conference. Only the pre-approved wire services may take photographs, and we ask you to do so from behind the first row. If you could take a moment to turn your cell phones to silent. And our moderator for today is Ann Thompson, and it is now my pleasure to welcome the director, screenwriter, producer, author of the novel, and cast for Wild.
Hello, all.
Hello.
I'm going to start with Cheryl Strayed, who is second from the left here, whose memoir started all of this. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for, I'm checking just to make sure this is possible, 74 weeks.
That's just in paperback.
Oh, my God. All right. So then we have Nick Hornby, who adapted the screenplay. We know some of his books that have been made into movies, including About a Boy and Fever Pitch and High Fidelity, and he adapted An Education as well. And then we have Laura Dern, who plays the mother of this wonderful mother-daughter story. Then we have at the other end Bruna Papandreou, the producer of this, who also produced Warm Bodies, and Reese Witherspoon, the major star of this incredible movie. And we have Jean-Marc Vallée, Canada's own, the director of Dallas Buyers Club, which was here last year and earned Oscars for Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto, who seems to be on something of a run right now. So I'm going to start out with Cheryl and ask you, how much were you involved with the script, and how fearful were you of that whole adaptation process, and why did you go with Reese, who chased you down for this?
Well, it really did begin with Reese. She read the book before it was published and called me, and we had a wonderful conversation. The thing that I wanted to know most, I mean, I knew Reese already through the work that she's done. I knew that she was an incredible actress and that she's brought something really interesting to every single role she's played. But I wanted to know in particular why she wanted to bring Wild to the screen, why she thought that this book could be adapted to the screen. And everything she said just thrilled me to the bone. We connected, we felt like old friends pretty quickly in our first phone conversation. And I also just trusted her. I do tend to trust my gut, and I had a good feeling about Reese. And then I met Bruna and had that same feeling about her. It was then that maybe 6 months into this that Nick Hornby came along, and I could not have been more honored because I'm just a wild Nick Hornby fan. I mean, who the hell isn't, you know? And so to think that this British man would adapt my very American book, I do think it's so much a book about the American West, is a kind of mad prospect. But I think that Nick recognized this too, that there's a way that we as writers are connected. The kinds of things we've written about look very different on the surface but aren't at the core. And so I knew that he could do this adaptation. I really admired his screenplay for An Education, too. And so all of these things, I just thought, there was a big green light in my heart saying, yes, Nick, please write that script. And look what he did. He wrote a beautiful script.
Reese, why did you want to make this movie so badly?
Well, I read the book. My agent sent me the book, and I read it in 24 hours and just immediately called her and said, I don't know who this woman is, Cheryl Strayed, but I have to talk to her. I feel like I've known her. I need to hug her. And I need to talk to her tomorrow. So they got me her telephone number, and I called her, and it was just it's an important book in my life. I just knew it would be one of the most important books of my life because it was so beautiful, and it's about a beautiful journey to save yourself, that this woman goes on. And I said to her, if you give me the option for this book, I promise you I will honor your life, and I will get the movie made. I will get it made quickly. Will not be letting languish around Hollywood for a long time. And I promise you that, I'll honor you. And she agreed. So I was really, really fortunate.
Well, something, Jean-Marc, we've spoken, but something about this really touched you deeply. What was it that made you feel so strongly that you had to work on this film?
Well, Cheryl has a way to talk about herself and everything that she went through, and of course I went through something similar. I lost my mom of cancer, and so of course I could relate to the loss, but mainly, I mean, this woman, the way, life, life can be tough, can be cruel, and the way she gets over it, the way she heals herself, she saves herself, and I knew I had amazing, powerful, emotional material, but at the same time, the kind of material that allows a director to have fun with the language and the camera and the editing and the music. So I had a project where literally I wanted to be wild with the toy, and at the same time step back and be humble and let the Nick's script and dialogues and the content be up there and not interfere, And here I am.
Nick, what were some of the challenges for this? The flashbacks must have posed something of a challenge. They always do.
Yeah, I think when we began talking about it, when I talked with Rhys and Bruna right at the beginning, what we decided was to try and reorganize the backstory a little bit so that Bobby's death comes more towards the middle of the movie. The book, everything is presented out front. There's this devastating opening, but we thought maybe it might work if there was a kind of emotional mystery to the film. So you can see that this girl is struggling and is in a lot of anguish, and that she's made maybe some wrong... am I allowed to say wrong decisions?
I regret nothing.
Some decisions that not everybody makes, put it that way. It was, yes, weaving that through into the walk. But I think, weirdly, one of the biggest issues was when I went through the book and underlined everything that I wanted to dramatize, you think, oh my God, there's a 2-hour movie you could make here, which is just narrative incident involving other people, and yet this is a movie about a woman who is on her own on a trail. So I think probably the biggest challenge for all of us was to create some space for the Cheryl character to be on her own.
So Rhys, did you really wear a 75-pound pack?
When I first showed up on set, I thought, well, for sure, I've been on movies before. They just stuffed newspaper in the back, and it won't be heavy. It's no big deal. And Jean-Marc immediately was like, why does the backpack not look heavy on your back? I was like, well, because I'm going to pretend, that it's heavy. And he said, no, it actually has to be heavy. And I was like, you're kidding, right? This is going to be a joke. But it was great, though, because it actually did change the way I walked, and it changed the way it dug into my shoulders and how quickly my body got tired from carrying this thing. And then after 5.5 weeks of carrying it on my back, I got so used to it. It was like an appendage, and I missed it when it was gone. I really did.
So how did you feel about putting away your mirror?
Oh, yeah. Well, Jean-Marc... Yeah, asked that all the mirrors be covered in the hair and makeup trailer and in my trailer. That was fine. He asked me, he said to we were having the hair and makeup test, he said, I want to make sure that you don't wear any hair, no hair and no makeup. I was like, yeah. Like a little makeup, like mascara and like a little cover up and, just like no makeup look. And he's like, no makeup. And I was like... Okay, well, let's just try it. I'm willing to try anything. And then Yves Bélanger, who shot the film, just did such a beautiful job. And they showed me the dailies. And it was raw. I'd never seen myself in a movie like that before. I was like, but, if Cheryl could be brave enough to tell every part of her story, I had to be brave enough to throw away my vanity and go for it.
So, Laura, you and Rhys get a lot of scripts, you see a lot of material. How often do you get a script like this?
Never.
You have to say
that. It speaks so much to Cheryl's extraordinary authenticity as a person and woman, and this shared beauty that Cheryl and Nick both have of diving deep fearlessly into the truth, which is something actors long to be inspired by and very, very rarely get. So before you've even started, they've already required you to be your most honest self. And then this, mad genius who makes you have no hair and makeup and carry real backpacks will also demand the truth at every moment. It's one thing to get to be honest as an actor and another thing to learn about being a human being from Cheryl's story, and that's an amazing blessing.
So Bruna, what was the most extraordinary challenge as a producer on this project? What were the logistical issues and stuff?
I think the most, I mean, and actually it was, you know, it was kind of a dream run, this movie, I have to say, and I think partly because Reese and I were very careful to kind of, you know, keep control of the movie so that it could land in the right hands, and so that we were very intent on honouring that promise we made to Cheryl in making it very quickly. So, you know, from a kind of production and, you know, from a financing point of view, the movie came together. We were very lucky. We had multiple suitors. But because of that timeline we set ourselves, it was heading towards winter. And obviously this is a movie set in the summer. So the biggest challenge, I think, for us was trying to kind of hit that start date and really, you know, kind of beat the weather. And we were very lucky. You know, it was sunny one day and we would leave and it would snow the next day. And someone was definitely watching over us weather-wise. I mean, so that was probably the biggest challenge. You know, we had, apart from that, you know, John Mark works in such a beautifully kind of simple way, and it was just a joy to make a movie like that. It was the first time I'd ever shot a movie digitally, and it was, you know, kind of liberating. So that was kind of the biggest challenge. Apart from that, you know, it's kind of been a dream run with this amazing group of people.
I'd like to open it up for questions right here in the front.
Chad Dunleavy from the Montreal Gazette. Reese, you're in 2 films directed by Quebec directors this year. What made you choose and go towards Jean-Marc to make this film?
And the other one is The Good Lie that's here in Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. And what was it like working with him, working under him?
Right as we got the script, again, we were hurrying. We were trying to find a director because we wanted to hit this window right before the winter came. And my husband, who represents Matthew McConaughey, said, you know, what about Jean-Marc Vallée? And I said, could we get Jean-Marc Vallée? And he was like, I don't know, but you should see his movie. It's extraordinary. And so Bruna and I got a unique opportunity to see the film early and call Jean-Marc immediately. I mean, we were freaking out because it was such an amazing, powerful, emotional movie, but it was never saccharine or maudlin. And I felt like we called and I was like, I don't know if I'll ever do this movie. And we sent him the script, and he called us immediately. And we talked over Skype, and we both cried. And we immediately connected over the material. And some, you know, we had a few meetings with other directors, and a lot of directors were a little bit scared and scared of certain parts of the material. And I just knew immediately it was Jean-Marc because he was so enthusiastic about the parts that were the most frightening, like the soundtrack. You know, a lot of people were like, Nick wrote it and said it's a mixtape radio in her head. And a lot of people said to us, what the heck does that mean? And Jean-Marc was like, I love this mixtape radio in her head. And we're like, yes. So just that enthusiasm and that, you know, and knowing he's such a genius in the editing as well, it just created this unique opportunity to work with somebody who had such a vision from the start. So we're so excited.
Right behind you.
Yeah. Mary Milliken from Reuters. Reese, you take on the role of a woman with whom many readers have established a very personal, almost proprietary connection. And I wanted to know how you dealt with that burden and what advice Cheryl gave you for that.
Well, I guess I didn't really even realize that. I mean, I think the biggest burden that I felt was representing Cheryl to a place that made her feel comfortable. So I feel like we had a lot of conversations about that. And I talked to her about, you know, what kind of responses were elicited from her raw, emotional honesty about every part of her life, not just the good parts, but the truth, you know. So she really helped me. I don't know if you want to speak to that sort of.
Well, I didn't want to freak you out. But yeah, millions of people do have a relationship with Wild, the book. And so it was very important to me that I felt like, I mean, and this is what goes back to the beginning, you know, that this film, I wanted it had to be its own thing for it to succeed. I knew that right away. And I shared that thought with all of these people here on the stage. But it also, you know, mattered to me that the film had the kind of integrity that, you know, that it did honor the book, and that it would be, you know, pleasing to the people took the book into their hearts. And so I think that when you see the film tonight, those of you who will see it this evening or after that, you know, the film absolutely does that. And that thrills me so much. It's really important to me as the author of Wild to say that truthfully.
Cheryl, how do you feel about some of the reviews, or any of you, that suggest that this is somehow a chick flick?
Well, they're wrong. They're wrong. And I know this because of my experience with the book. One of the things I was adamant about from the very beginning before Wild was published is that this isn't a book for women. I'm a feminist. I love to tell women's stories, my own and the stories of other women, but I also think that a woman's story is a human story. And that's what I'm interested in as an artist. I'm interested in answering, what does it mean to be human? And that's, I think, what all of us are interested in answering. And, you know, so what I did from the beginning is I just insisted that the book would not be marginalized in this way. And what's beautiful is it wasn't. At least half of my fan mail is from men. Men have really bought the book. I think it helps if you have a hiking boot on the cover. Just so, FYI. And you know, so I really crossed that line, and I know the film can do that same thing. This is not a film for women; it's a film for people.
Bruce?
Yeah, and that review came from a guy seated at a sport club in front with chicken wings and beer, and chick flick my ass.
That'll be the headline.
Bruce Kirkland from the Toronto Sun Media, and this is a question for Jean-Marc. And seeing the very powerful, personalized relationship between Rhys and Cheryl and their dedication to telling this story in the way they wanted it, I'm curious if there were any challenges for you as the director coming into this relationship and wondering how to plot out what you think is the greatest film version of this story that they cared so much about.
It all happened very naturally and very quickly, and it started with Nick's script. So, it you know, it was his vision, his take of on Cheryl's book, and then we all talked about it. Then we started to work with Nick to, okay, we're shooting in 2 months. We gotta get the script at a place where we're all comfortable, and also where it's we wanted it to be as emotional as the book, and this relationship, this mother-daughter relationship. We tried to, you know, get it in the film as much as we could, and we even on the set tried to capture everything we were able to capture with Laura between, you know, during breaks or during a makeup test, and just shooting Laura. She came on one day on the test on the trail. Of course, Bobby was not written on the trail, but we decided to shoot her on the trail, and maybe in the cutting room there was a way to use that as a fantasy, we don't know how, but, you know, and so it happened quickly, and happened, yeah, I felt that just like Cheryl, you know, that it was an easy group of people to get along with, to work with. We were all on the same page, trying to honor Cheryl's words and life and story, and 11 months later, the film was done. I've never made a film so quickly, and it went so well. And what a ride, huh? What a wild ride, ladies.
We've got someone here in the front, or over there. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Swati Sharan. I'm from Minority Review, and I guess I have two questions here. One is for Cheryl. The question here is, what did in the scene where you're seen letting go, when you are seen letting go of your items that you're traveling with, I kind of also sort of symbolically interpreted this as almost a sign of letting go of things. In real life, was that a sign for you? Was that symbolic of that in real life for you? And my question to Nick is, what technical criteria did you set aside so that so that you can adapt this, adapt something that's been written, as a book onto the screen? Because this could have read it like a sort of geography book also, not geography book, but it might not have been adaptable to the screen perhaps, So what technical criteria did you use to decide what things would stay and what would go,
The beauty of writing about an experience like a hike or backpacking trip is, yes, the physical world lent itself the literal world lent itself very easily to the metaphorical, which is what you're so often working in as a writer or trying to. And if anything, I had to tone down what happened in real life because it was so metaphorical. When I would say, I had this weight that I couldn't bear. I had to bear the unbearable. It can become almost heavy-handed. That is what Wild is about. How is it that we bear the unbearable? One step at a time. And so you can pretty quickly become, a book of aphorisms or, a little bit too, sort of trite. And so I was very conscious of that. On the other hand, I had this great material that lent itself to, I really did not want to write a book about my hike. I really did not want to write a book about myself because nobody wants to read that. Nobody needs to read that. What I really wanted to do was tell a story that was about all of us. How is it that we survive what we think we can't? How do we move forward even when we suffer? Those were the big questions I was reaching for in writing Wild, and I had this wonderful literal experience that I could use. And so I did.
Nick?
I'll tell you a little story about how I got involved in this project. Cheryl and I were friends on Facebook before Wild was published, and I didn't really, in the way that Facebook friends can be, I have to say I didn't really know her or who she was, and
I knew you then.
well, maybe she knew me then. And I was looking at my feed, and a review. A friend of Cheryl's had posted a review that appeared in the New York Times of Wild, and quite often, if you've got a lot of friends who are writers on Facebook, they quite often post reviews, and quite often these reviews are by their mum or by their best friends, and you think, oh, here's a writer posting a review on her webpage. And I looked at it, it was the New York Times, and I thought, oh, okay. And the review was unbelievable. I mean, it was just an incredible review. And I immediately ordered the book, and from America, it hadn't been published in the UK at that stage. And then this book came, and when Cheryl said it helps to put a pair of hiking boots on the cover, when that book arrived, I looked at it, I thought, oh, God, it's about bloody hiking. I'm not a hiker. I don't go outside very often. No interest in the natural world at all. I like my music and my books and television. I watch a lot of television. And I thought, okay, all right, well, if this book's supposed to be so great. And then I started reading it, and I thought, oh, my God. And for me, it was a really loud, angry, beautiful song. It was I was thinking all the way through about the tour that Bruce Springsteen did in America in 1978, where the shows night after night after night were just incredible. And that was the tone of Wild for me. And it's written from the point of view of someone who understands that I wouldn't like this book. actually. Cheryl's not saying, oh, okay, I'm going to tell you all about hiking and why it's so great, and this is the equipment you need. I promise you I would not have adapted that book. It was a book about a person and a person put in an extraordinary situation, and I was on that walk with her, and it made me very unhappy and uncomfortable to be on that walk with her, but I was desperate to try and adapt this for the screen. There is so much, tonally, there's so much that was fantastic. I mean, it's a funny book, and it's a desperately sad book, and it's an angry book, and I thought the minor characters were fantastic. I thought the central relationships were fantastic. There was so much that I wanted to see on screen. There was no technical criteria I had. I just wanted to get as much of it in as I could and to put it in an order that would make sense for an audience. That was it, really. Sorry, that was a long answer, but thank you.
Any questions out there? Red shirt, right here. Guess not. There you go.
Hi, my name is Astrid Rien. I'm from the International Newswire DPA. I wanted to ask both Rhys and Laura, and also Jean-Marc, there's been already some Oscar buzz about the movie. I wanted to know if, some people are talking that you could be nominated as Best Actresses, and I wanted to know if you think about that, or do you prefer just not to think about that till the nominations are announced? And then I wanted to ask Cheryl about books, because it seems like one of the biggest companies she has along the trip are books. So I think it's also a movie about the love for books. So that's...
I think the great news, I hope I can speak for Rhys and myself about having been lucky enough to be doing this for a number of years now, is you learn, despite ego, of the privilege of your generous support of film. Because movies that have this level of truth and importance for all of us should be cared for, and we hope seen by the world, and the more support, that's great news. And having grown up on independent film, it's meant the world to movies I've been part of. So I just have immense gratitude for any support that gets Cheryl's story seen. And, learning, thanks to Bobby's influence, to have gratitude and even accept compliments.
Rhys?
I mean, I have to echo all of what Laura said. I think, you never set out to make a film that's going to get awards. I don't even think about it. It's not anything that even crosses my mind. The most important thing to me was honoring Cheryl, and that she was happy with the movie. That's the biggest gift. Sitting there in that dark room the first time she saw it was like the biggest gift of my life. And I felt like if this movie can help one other person just get through a tough time, I feel like that's the gift. And it's already happened, so I feel really, really lucky.
Cheryl?
Yes, I love that you noticed Wild is a book full of the love of books. Books have been my greatest consolation in my life through happy times and hard times. And I'm so thrilled that that's in the film too. There's actually poetry in the film. The film is really so much a love song to my mother, to the Pacific Crest Trail, and to the power of literature. That thrills me beyond words.
Kerry Roberts from The Next Take on Super Channel. I'd like to pick up on something that Nick talked about, and that's the use of music. It's always been a big part of your film, Jean-Marc, and of course, Nick, you've written about it in your books as well. You talked about the mixtape idea. Cameron Crowe likes to play music on set, and I'd like to know if you guys had a mixtape going, playing on the set, or if you had like a list of music that you all listen to for inspiration.
Yes, yes. Would you like to start, Nick?
Well, I had some songs that I mentioned in the script, and they were the kinds of things that I'd been listening to at the time that Cheryl was on the hike, and they were also some of them things that were mentioned in the book. So the mixtape radio is a jumble of music and fragments of poetry and advertising jingles and any crap that you have. I mean, I was thinking on the way over, anyone who's taken a 7-hour flight knows that sometimes things get stuck in your head and you're really glad to get off the plane and talk to somebody. And this was Cheryl's life for all those weeks, was having these 94 days of having a McDonald's advert in your ear, going round and round and round and round. So there were two layers of the music. There was the stuff that I brought in, and then Jean-Marc, then he did his sort of overcoat, as it were. I had an undercoat of music, and then Jean-Marc took it over. And
it was already there. First on Cheryl is very music-oriented, and she refers to a lot of song in the book. Nick also is very music-oriented, so I was happy to, make a film again where I could spin as a director/DJ in a way, and have fun with music. Not score music, but, source music that helps defining the characters. So that's why I was happy to see that already Nick had a thought about this, and creating this voiceover, this mixtape radio, and so we had a playlist on the set. Sent a couple of songs to the actors, to Reese and Laura, and it's something I do always, no matter the film. I arrive in the morning. We have a playback, and we play music, and even more specifically, when there's a track in the scene, of course, we're going to play music, stop it, record the dialogue, but it helps create. Sometimes to find the right emotional target intention, and sometimes to create an ambience between the crew or just helping the actors. But this theme, this recurrent theme that is in the film, El Condor Pasa, that plays the opening, the instrumental intro, was really used to help and underline, or it's a direct link to this mother-daughter relationship, and it's such a beautiful. It has a mystical quality, so. And I like to try to create some sort of magic with the whole. When you look at a film like this, where there's a woman alone in the wilderness, where trying to find herself back and trying to connect with nature, with trying to get rid of resentments and so music is powerful, and see how Nick described his reaction of what the book was for him, a song, and I feel the same too.
Yes.
It's Linda from Fairchild TV of Toronto. This is a question to Jean-Marc and the actress. This is like a project from day one to the end of the production is so different. You transformed also as a director, maybe after filming the whole thing, the whole process, the actress too. So tell us your experience. What did you learn that you didn't learn from day one? You shoot the movie, but finally you might have been inspired or having some revelations after the end of the production. Thank you.
Who wants to start? Who wants to start on this one? Reese? Yeah. Laura?
You start.
Did I? Well, first I'm like Nick. I'm not a hiker at all, but zero. We went for a hike in Telluride. I still have 2 blisters on my feet, and new boots, new boots, and And funny enough, I felt like a kid shooting these first 25 days on the trail, getting out very, very early in the morning to shoot with the sunrise and finishing at sunset. So this feeling of being out was so that was something where we had to capture this girl alone on the trail. But of course, yeah, it was great. I just lost my train of thoughts here, but it was great. It was amazing.
Reese, what did you learn?
I think, well, I learned so much. I actually physically learned so much. What my body was capable of doing, because I had a lot of fear before I started the film that I wasn't going to be able to just physically accomplish a lot of the things that Jean-Marc was going to want me to do. But I was able to do it, which was exciting. And then I think, moreover, I think I was really struck by what a universal experience it was for so many people connecting to the story, whether they were on the crew or people who had read the book. I was really struck by how many men and women came up and told some part of their story to Cheryl. She would be on set a lot, and that was profound for me because when you read a book, it feels very personal to you, and I felt like this is, something that felt very personal. I didn't know if everybody was as interested in this material as I was, so it was really, for me, a revelation to see how far-reaching that was.
Well, you mentioned transformative as the word in question, so I would just say for me, I too, as Nick so beautifully described his experience of Cheryl's book, we all get to share how that experience alone was so transformative, but specifically getting the privilege of playing Bobby, I feel a shift forever from getting to be part of the film. And I would say that I didn't know until getting to know Bobby through Cheryl, and that Cheryl, like no other, carries her mother in her cells in a magnificent, very moving way, that you earn gratitude. It's not something that is necessarily a birthright, and I didn't know that until being introduced to Cheryl's story and really affording myself the luxury of gratitude through the deepest and most painful places is an amazing lesson that I'll always carry from this amazing experience.
Thank you all very much. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.